Okay, so here we're, I guess, at the start of 1921 now, and the Feng tried to entertain an alliance with the Sun, the red guys. They couldn't quite convince them. The Sun is intrigued by it, because they're worried that the Wu has a stronger central position. But the problem is, they're just not quite ready to hit the Wu yet. So that didn't coalesce really. Feng went and talked to the Wu, but the Wu have no real interest in it. Their position is really focused in this northward swing. All that chatting is kind of making the Chang nervous. The question, of course, when you're playing, it's hard to judge when someone realizes that things are kind of going bad. So actually, I didn't make a roll for the Chang. Nah, they're not too worried. Because sometimes those discussions can be more quickly held, even though you have every intention of betraying if possible. What's hard to do is, although it can also be done, is to betray someone without telegraphing it, like to actually betray them. For example, the Feng could have outlined everything they're planning on doing very quickly, and the Sun could just say, "Yep, sounds good, let's do it." But none of that really matters, because you'd be declaring the alliance at that point. There could be, though, a secret plan in play, and in a sense there kind of is. The Feng are planning on stabbing the Chang this turn. Maybe not on the first action, although they don't have, nobody has a whole lot of money. So they may just strike early. They have to make the choice, not necessarily at the beginning of the turn, but before the Feng Chang move happens, so that those two get aligned and actually have a turn order in relation to each other. And the problem with that is the Chang get the first move, which, unless this big army is defeated, that's going to be kind of a difficult situation. I've got my largest Feng force is 2 units in Chang territory, though, which I'd like to throw up into Chile or something, but with this out there, I am just going to get killed, so I may not be able to actually make a betrayal here in the way that I'd like. If I could have formed an alliance, that would maybe give me a little bit more strength, but probably not. I'd still be forcing that alliance to go last, which means no help there. Okay. So I guess we start with the Sun Wu. So a combined attack on Honan failed for the Sun Wu, and then the Feng, they got Shenzi though. Then the Feng Chan, well, the Chang told the Feng, "Look, I don't really need you. I'll go into Anwei. We'll see what happens." And the Feng are kind of like, "Well, at least I don't have to pay for any troops. Like, trash compacted in Suyang. See what happens," because I just was not in a position that I could launch an attack, break the alliance yet. 2, the Sun attacked in Suyang. The Wu retook Anwei, and the Chang then diverted and went and took Kiangsu instead of fighting the Wu so much. They're still leaving the Feng, a couple armies here, big armies. Still not sure how that's going to shake out. This, some open meat here. The problem is, as soon as the Feng make their move, they will be vulnerable, because, I have to spend a point for one of them. 7 and 12. I think I moved that up there. or would have. I just forgot about him from the beginning because I got to pay an extra point for him. I just want that extra defense here. And that's where I would have put it to begin with. And that would not have changed the Feng's decision not to attack. They're perfectly happy. So, I'm basically making room so the Feng don't have to do anything yet, so they can wait and see. I could leave them Honan if I wanted to, if I really want to make them my buddy. And that's something I've been tossing back and forth as an idea, if I could get sort of a devastating blow against the Sun Wu, and that would make the Feng happy enough to rejoin the alliance. They would have been given something to make up for the sacrifices they've made. The last turn was volatile. First of all, both the Wu and the Sun had not enough money to pay off where they were located. The Sun, having been retreated here, had too many units here, too many here. The Wu had too many. Both had to lose a mid-sized unit, like in the 6 range, just because of not having the extra buck to spend there. That's why you don't want to build every single unit you can. You want to maintain a decent stock, but the problem is when you have a decent stock, you tend to use it and try to capture stuff, so you end up running out of money no matter what. Then the Feng lowered the boom, and they said, look, give me Honan, or I'm declaring our alliance void, and I'll attack you somewhere. And it wouldn't really work, because the Feng will be sitting in Honan. The Chang could have gathered all the forces, but the Chang are like, well, obviously I'd rather have you as an ally than have to kill you. But giving you Honan doesn't make a lot of sense to me. How about I engineer you get Hubei? How about we attack together? You give me some money, because I don't have enough to fund my army anyway. So it's not like I'm really losing too much except committing my army. And they agreed, barely won that fight, but now the Feng have Hubei, and that gives them something to hope for. Otherwise, if they had gone rebel here, the Chang would have collapsed into them, and they'd be left with 2 1-point areas, which, the Sun might just go marching up and keep trying to attack them, because that gets them to the soft underbelly of the Chang, and the Sun didn't really have a lot of places where they're in contact. They were in contact here, but remember, Hubei was Wu, so while they could project influence into something like Honan, it wasn't directly to their advantage to do so. It was more to help the Wu. But now things look really, really ugly for the Wu especially. The Chang are in much better shape. Although they didn't add anything, they got Kiangsu over the year, and now their Feng allies are a little bit happier. We'll flip them over to there. Though still in an opportunistic view, because it looks like the Chang are kind of rolling right now. So it would be the time to move against them at some point. But without anything, which is what they probably would have ended up if they had betrayed, they weren't going to have much chance of being able to do a lot of harm to the Chang. I fear that I'm maybe psychologically incapable of playing this game well, because I want to build my armies. Again, I'm at low operating money, and we saw how much trouble that got me in with a couple of players losing 5-6 point armies, mid-sized armies. I'm at low operating value. With folks like the Wu here, he can only maintain 1 army. He has 3 in here. He can only maintain 1 here. He has 2 in here. He's got to get these moving, and well, where to put them? The easiest place is into Hubei, but they're probably not going to take Hubei. However, if he puts them somewhere else, the Chang are potent enough that they're going to be able to beat him back. The Chang have a humongous army too. They had a funding problem. I saw how bad it was. I had like $3 or something, and I've got this whole army outside my territory that I had to move because I gave the Feng Hubei. So we're going to see a lot of movement happening, but I don't have the kind of money available to do more than a turn or two of movement. And, well, there's 3 turns. You could end up losing units due to not having supply pretty easily. But you've got this kind of optimism in your mind. Ah, yeah, I'll take that and I'll be able to hold it. Yeah, that's the ticket. The only guy with enough money is the Sun. And I was actually, they're in a kind of neat position because they hold some of these areas back here that they feel are pretty safe. Kansu as well, Fujian, that are hidden behind the Wu territory. Yes, they could be hit, or the Wu could stab them. That looks pretty unlikely. The Wu are pretty much dependent on them now. But everyone else is right in the middle of things with nearly all their forces. You could say, well, the Chang are pretty safe back here. Yeah, but they don't totally trust the Feng. And they also had, there's sort of this buildup of forces that starts happening here, and that's why you see 2 in each of these. Well, I can funnel more troops forward. Yeah, but I don't really have the money to do that. So I make some kind of dumb decisions while I'm doing it. And I think it's just natural when you're playing this to do that. But then again, I think it's natural in, geez, what's the game that screws me completely for that? I don't remember. Oh, Rail Baron. Yeah. To go to a completely random switch. I don't know where I have that hidden anymore. It used to be over here. It's probably still there somewhere, but I'm just not seeing it. Or maybe it's hidden under here somewhere. Anyway, with Rail Baron, you end up, now I feel like I have to find it. You end up in this situation where, oh look, you could buy something small while you're saving up for the big things, and it feels like you're going somewhere then. And I always do that and would always get beaten by an old gaming partner of mine, Tom, who used to be really good at, nah, I'm not gonna buy anything, just save my money. I know what I want to get, and I should be able to get there. Maybe ahead of you, maybe not. I might get screwed, but you know, it's what I want if I can get it. So I'm not gonna spend $6 on the DRGW when that might be cutting my margins too small. So it's the same kind of thing. I feel like I must get something. I must build up my army, as you know, and use it now. Yeah. Sometimes that kind of thinking doesn't work as well as it should. My opportunism is not as efficient or effective as it should be. Pretty intense half turn there. The Wu had a real supply problem with 2 of their provinces in famine, and they moved all their forces, including some from Kingsu, I think, into Hubei. Outnumbered, they severely outrolled their opponents, defeated them, and sent them flinging back 20 losses to, like, I don't know, 5, 6, something like that. And the Sun moved in here. You know, I wish I could get the Wu and the Chang together. There's no Tan or anything like that, but I would kind of like the Wu Chang clan at least. I was just thinking, you know, I thought this was Wu Chang, and it started sounding cool, and then I'm like, no, that's Wu Sun. It's just not the same. All right, I gotta move to the Feng Chan now. That sounds cool though. The Feng Chan clan. Response is Chang sent its forces into Kingsu, retaking them. This Feng unit, that was only a couple of strength points. Main advantage, I don't know if there was any real advantage, but he had to pay for the unit anyway. Might as well throw it into an attack. It got him some prestige or whatever off of that. And now we're in an interesting position because the Wu have like no money. And a unit, they're going to have to... they don't have enough money to even survive their units. The Sun might lend them $1, but the Sun aren't exactly wealthy either. Nobody is. And there aren't a lot of good places for them to throw a unit. They could throw one into Jiangxi. Another one could go into Sichuan and help hold that or something, but, you know, who cares? They might be able to trash compact in Hubei, though, and that would help. And otherwise, everybody else has kind of 1 activation left, and there's 2 more rounds left to the year. Turn to this year, and my damn camera failed to charge up. Anyway, more of a static turn. The Wu Sun made an attack on Anwei, failed, but they had units that they needed to fund. Now Wu is out of money, but they've got all their units spread out to where they can sit. I actually have a... Looks to me like we swap, because we got a tie here, and then this is the next, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to make this decision, because it's either that or it's a die roll. I think it's a die roll. It's not spelled out in the rules, so yeah, we'll stay in the same order on turn 3 here. The Chang moved their forces down towards Chile. Some Feng moved into Shantung just to save a couple of strength points. It's cheaper, you know, to spend a point now if you have the bucks. The big thing, though, is they grabbed Jahal, and that kind of gives them a little bit extra room to hold units and to produce money and troops and whatever. Given that they're kind of filled up in the central area that they live in, or that they're fighting out of, that seems important. Now, they're going to get last move, and so they're going to get another chance to attack. The only thing is, I think the Wu had to destroy a unit, a small unit. Sunner at about $5. So they actually have the room to launch another attack if they wish. Where they want to do it, I don't know. Yeah, but with the money, it's kind of desirable to try to push ahead. Of course, wherever they attack, and you know, it might be up here in Honan, if they can get the Wu to support them, that would be great, but I don't know why the Wu would particularly want to, unless they're getting a territory out of it. It's kind of the feeling I'm getting. You know, the Wu has taken the majority of the damage in this attack, so or in the game so far. So it's like, why should I support this? It's the same with the Feng. I need something, you know. I need some help here. 23. Before we enter, though, if I can recall correctly, what happened: Xu Yang fell to the Sun, Anwei fell to the Wu Sun, and then the Feng are being granted the prize of Hupei. They came 1 point of loss away from basically winning the battle, but losing their entire force, because mainly a Chang army went in there to support the attack, with the agreement that they would get Hupei, and they helped fund that attack. But had it gone a little bit against their alliance more, it would have taken 2 more hits because of the way they split. You know, they have the choice of how to split things, and the Chang could have taken the extra loss to make sure that the Feng get this. But the Feng are down to 1 place other than what they just gained. They're pretty quickly approaching the point of I don't exist anymore. If they lose their territories and can't reposition this thing, they dissolve as a faction, which often seems to happen. I thought maybe it would be because of like the fear of the Feng, because come 26 they're going to get that +1 combat effectiveness rating. They get the Mongolia extra troops, and those are actually troops as opposed to like the Lianyang factory power. But nobody's really afraid of what the Feng might become. It's just they happen to be in a position in every single, in the 1916 scenario, where every single time I play, they seem to just get wiped out for no really great reason except their geographic position. And really, we're seeing this boil down to a 2-player game at this point. It is the Sun and their little buddy, and the Chang and their little buddy. And the Sun's little buddy is bigger, but the Chang is bigger than the Sun. And we'll be getting some new blood added in very soon, though, and that'll change the dynamic some. But the 26 scenario starts with all 4 powers kind of in balance still, and we didn't see that. And I very seldomly do. Usually somebody gains some sort of power. Actually, I think usually the Wu, from my memory, is strong. And in this game, they really kind of got their asses handed to them. They start in a rich, powerful central position and have a lot of advantages. That didn't really work to their advantage in this case, maybe because they looked more like a target than they usually do to me. I don't know. Anyway, we'll keep moving on. I wanted to babble a little bit more about, always the case, what sort of the historical basis of this is, and it's kind of hard to judge. So the 4 different factions, and they show up through the 26 scenario as well. Sun I always thought was Sun Yat-sen, and I still do, given the southern location, etc. But that's weird because the KMT kind of springs up while it's still in existence. So maybe the KMT infighting is sort of Sun Yat-sen versus what eventually becomes the nationalists, other parties within the Sun Yat-sen faction. The Feng, well, Feng was definitely one of the factions in a sense. There was one particular person, I can't pronounce his name, but it's Feng something, one long word. Some of the other cliques, though, that are identified don't seem to really fit in too well. There was a General Chang who was important in one of them. There were several Generals Wu, I think one in each of the 3 factions, which, it's a common enough name that it's kind of hard for me to really, I don't understand enough of the history to really know what it's supposed to represent. But in a sense, it captures the chaos of the era and the political infighting and deal making without really getting too much into the specifics. And, well, if you really want to study the era, this is not the game to do so with. I've tried to, I often compare it to, and I think I did in another video, to the kind of fantasy games that showed up. Things like, not Barbarian Kings, which is probably a little richer than this, but things like City States of Ark-Laral, where I just feel like, okay, I'm playing a pretty generic war game that could have been set on anywhere. It doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of chrome or flavor to it. Now, this has the chrome of the communists and the Japanese, but and the CERs and the Mongolians and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's a pretty generic system that could be transplanted anywhere. And I don't think it really covers the kind of political jockeying that was taking place. I think probably a system more like Russian Civil War, if we can get past the light there. The old SPI game does a better job of kind of capturing that chaos of politics and military intermingled than this does. This just kind of handles a military, and it has pretty damn static fronts when it comes down to it, which it doesn't seem to have been the case during the Chinese warlords period. Maybe something more like Lords of Sierra Madre up there would also capture it, except that the economic concerns were less important in most places. Along the coast they were a little bit more in play, but you'd have large areas that really didn't have a strong economic factor, and that kind of system wouldn't work well in that. So I don't know. But this has a generic feel to it, but it's one of the few games on China at all, so they're outside of World War II. At this point, it's pretty clear that the Chang are way in the lead in the game. First of all, here's the full amount of income after expenditures for armies and foreign aid. Foreign aid came in heavy for the Chang, but still. Now, after they built up their armies, they're in the same range as everyone else. The Feng are the rich ones with $15. Now, the Feng did not break their alliance with the Chang, and they probably won't. They only have 2 armies on the map anymore. Sometimes I get kind of out of whack, and I found some armies that aren't on the board, and I don't know what happened, but some of them had a lot of troops supposedly in them. Maybe I forgot to erase them when they got killed, or if that's possible. Some of them may have gotten popped. I know there was a big retreat. That may be what I found. Anyway. So the Feng aren't really capable of launching any kind of aggressive action against the Chang. And likewise, the Wu aren't really capable of doing anything aggressive. Basically, they filled out the armies for the 3 territories they hold. So it's left to one power to face the much more powerful, or the most powerful power, the Chang. And the Sun are standing against them, but it doesn't look like the Chang are going to be able to probably win the game in the course of the period before the KMT and the CCP come into existence. And then the Japanese come, and nobody can win when they're rampaging around, and especially since they focus in Manchuria to begin with. So there's kind of this, okay, if we can just kind of hold out and exist until somebody brings the Chang down, it'll all be okay, right? Yeah, maybe. But yeah, where are we now? We're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're halfway there. We have Chile. You can see, you know, with the amount of power that we have, if you get to 16 territories and you've got any of these rich ones, you're, you know, very clearly unstoppable. On the other hand, if you got your 16 territories and most of them are back here in the hinterlands, you might well not be the dominant force in China. It might not be reflecting that. But either way, and certainly if the Japanese have the entire coastal region and 16 territories, they also have you know, such a dominating hand that you can't really see any conglomeration. Even if one person controlled the rest of the territory, you can't see anything really stopping them easily. But yeah, the goal at this point, especially for the Wu and the Feng, is just survival. And to some extent even for the Sun. I mean, they're not going to get knocked out of the game, but they're not as concerned in this area. The KMT is going to show up here, whatever that means, you know. So we'll see if the Chang can pull something off. This is really, if you were playing this with I need to win, this is where the Chang have to start, you know, grabbing a lot of provinces. So they might actually stab the Feng to get rid of them at this point. Simply, it not only gets rid of them, but it opens up a pathway around to the Sun here, and to try to break this stalemate line. On the other hand, the stalemate line's kind of cool. You know, it means I can flood all my forces into one place, and I got more of them, and I got more money in general. Well, the Feng had disintegrated to something that was almost just really a client state of the Chang, but even worse than that. They basically were saying, look, we'll let anybody through our territory, whatever you want to do, just leave us alive. Well, that worked fine for the Chang. The Sun wasn't too unhappy with it. They didn't have much money, but whatever. They had to spread out their own forces, and they've got a real problem. They're going to lose 3 armies. They're out of money. They tried to do a quick stab into Honan, hoping they would get that, but at low odds. Just to save, because they have too many armies for where they are. And they actually could have swung up and taken Shahar. Anyway, the Wu made an attack into Hope, drive the Feng out of there, and now it's quite possible that the Chang might just finish the Feng off, or just leave them around. They're allied with them, they fight with them, there's no real harm to that. The Feng have a ton of money, but and their only possibility of survival might be to work with the Chang even longer at this point, after they've been driven out of Hubei. So that's where we are. And the Wu have enough money to get out of here, but they really don't have. They lost Anhui in their turn to massive Chang attack, and the Sun had to distribute their forces so they don't pay for no advantage, but I mean they'll pay one way or another, and these guys are just going to disintegrate. So we may actually see an end to the campaign before 26 happens, if the Chang can roll hard. And shit just got weird. The Chang moved in, grabbed Hubei, destroying another Wu territory. The Feng, there's no limitation on who you can give money to. They gave the Sun $2 to withdraw out of Shenxi with most of their forces into 2 areas. They'll probably throw them another $1 for another attack. What they're kind of viewing is, look, you know, I don't care where you go, but we want to keep those armies alive. So if you want to attack miners, I got a pile of cash. Just, you know, leave me alive here. The Chang are not happy about this. They feel like the Feng are kind of manipulating things behind the scenes against them. Well, they know that they are, and they're not at all thrilled with what's going on. Unfortunately for the Chang, they only have a couple of bucks for this upcoming turn, which the Wu also have. So I'm probably not going to be able to take anything too major, but I could throw a unit into Shenxi, make sure a Warlord doesn't come in there, or 2 if I want. It's not like anyone can get to Honan. I've kind of created a hole there, unless the Feng, who are going with me, declare, yeah, we're breaking the alliance now, which would probably not work well for them. Quickly rock through 23. No, I haven't paid my buck. Hold on. So I haven't finished yet. What happened was the Chang had to move out of Hubei. They had to pay their $2 that they have to support these units, so they went and grabbed Shenxi. It gives them a little bit more leverage on the Sun position. A possibility of, you know, I mean, now they're threatening Sichuan pretty heavily from 2 directions, or from two provinces. That's potent, but I only have 1 unit in here, so I've only got like 3 units that could actually move into here, assuming I build here. Here I could bring reinforcements in or whatever, but it's looking pretty ugly for the Sun there. I've got to move 1 unit out of here, I think, and do something with it, and I'll probably take Qinghai. Alternatively, I could try to attack this, but I've got a defensive advantage here, so that's not such a great idea, and there really isn't anywhere else unless I want to. The Feng are willing to pay me $1 to keep my armies alive because they think that'll improve their chances of surviving and of the Chang not winning the game. If Feng money is going to be used against the Chang, they have to destroy the Feng. So they broke the alliance, cost them a couple of points. The Feng can't find an alliance. The only alliance members possible are stronger than them, are allied, and are not going to disassociate. The Chang, again, huge amounts of money, $72 to start with, less than last time, but able to build up a big army. They should be able to take the Feng out with no problem because they go first. So this is probably the end of that faction. Where I can go beyond that is hard to tell. And the Wu actually have a ton of cash, but they had limited amounts of troops they could build. I think they built everything they could with all that money, but they only have like 1 extra unit beyond what they can support in their territories. They might end up trying to, you know, turn the tide a little bit, but it's going to be pretty tough. The Sun did not have a lot of money. They don't have a hell of a lot left. You can see they didn't grow much. They built a unit here in Sichuan, but I think other than that, they just kind of filled out some of their units. They're worried about getting some of these out of here. So it doesn't look terribly positive for them. And this is really a race. If the Chang can get, I think it's 5 more provinces they need. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yeah. 5 more provinces. Chahar is going to fall pretty easily. That's 1. Xuyang is probably pretty easy too. There's not a lot that the Sun can do about that if a force is being sent up this way. And we got one up in Heliokang. This might be a big unit, and this might be too. You know, I don't know. So I probably want a couple of units to go up in that direction just to get 2-to-1 odds in those places. And then there isn't all that much available to throw against the big forces. So I think it's going to be a close crapshoot, and then boom, everything changes. Chang more or less blew their wad there, and they got problems because of it. They spent all but $2. Took a Wu, a Sun, took the Feng out, and we'll bag them in a moment. But I'm in at least 1, 2, 3 places where I'm overpopulated. I'll have to do some trash compacting. I know I have some capability here, but I only have $2 to move my armies out of those territories. One may well march into Xiyang, or it may try to save itself by moving into, say, Chile. Either one's a valid possibility. Right now I'm at 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I need 2 more places to win. I'm probably unable to do that. When does victory get determined is the big question here. During the event phase, which means after all the players go. So if I can take 2 more areas and the Wu Sun can't take them back, or can't take other areas from me, it's over. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think, for example, the Wu have a strong enough force that they can probably take Hubei. And the Sun have significantly strong forces. They can push into Shenxi. I'm not sure what to do out of here. The problem, of course, is cash, but the Wu have a lot of money. The Feng's money is gone, though. They're out of the game in every sense of the word. They could have given away a little bit of that money early on, but hey, why would they want to do that? Except spite. But in terms of game-winning proposition, what they want to do is they want to hold their money and dole it out and make sure they stay alive because of their money. So if there had been some way that they could have, you know, survived the Chang turn, that money would be valuable. I refuse to make kind of spite moves, whether I'm playing in an opposed game or solo. It just doesn't feel right, but it does feel very much right to try to manipulate players with your money in a game like this. Sun Wu made a lot of attacks into Shenxi, Hubei, and Jiangxi. Only the Sun went into Shenxi, but the others were joint ventures. So into Hubei, the Sun were going to gain it, but they had Wu support, whereas in Jiangxi, I'm sorry, the Wu were going to gain this with Sun support. Here the Sun went in with Wu support, and they ended up taking it. They got very lucky on that last one because things would be very interesting. Maybe they still are. These two were both Chang outnumbered, but winning on the die rolls, basically. This one, the die rolls went the other way, and it was actually a closer battle than either of the others. So now, the Chang have an interesting option we haven't seen before. They could have done it on the first turn as well, but they don't have to go first because they are the preeminent power, and they're not allied with anyone. So at 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, if I could grab 3 territories, I can't. But if I could, I would probably want to go last, or maybe want to go last. The problem, of course, is my opponents can gain territory on me again if I let them go first. As it stands, I'm not sure which way I want to do this. Whether I want to, I think I still want to go last because I don't have to make decisions on places like this as to where. I've got 3 units still that are out of command, so I'm going to swap this out and make them go first because they may kill some of my units or drive them out of places. But yeah, if I had held this, I would have only needed 2 more areas. I have 2 bucks. This is why I can't do 3 areas. I only have 2 bucks. So if I held out another turn holding all my territories for 2 turns in a row, and then gained 2 more territories, this would have been fine. This guy got retreated. That's why he's still in that famine area. Here, he's fine because it's got a 2 forage value, so I can forage with half as many units. Sunwoo won 1 battle up in Shenxi, but they lost the big one in Hubei. They were actually outnumbered, scraping together forces from all over the place to get themselves in there. And this would be an outstanding circumstance if the Chang had any money, or anyone they could beg for money. Because they could have gone in and, they have enough forces, they could have wiped the Wu out of the game. And that certainly would be worthwhile. For one thing, the Wu have a pile of cash and have been very obviously funding Sun operations. So that's what I would have liked to do, but instead I had to disband an army here, move out here, move here. I'm giving up Suiyang. And we go into the 3rd turn. It doesn't really matter where I go with the Changs. Go 2nd here. It does matter. The Chang are going 1st so that they don't have to, so if they get retreated, they don't have to pay. They can kind of wind up wherever they like. Here's the movements we have. Again, mutual attacks, the Wu paying for the attack into Hubei, which they're going to get, and leaving the Sun to go into Honan. There was an opportunity, of course, to go grab Suiyang, but it's not worth much. This would be a big swing. If I can get 2 of these big territories, we're in kind of the same stalemate line that we were in with the Feng Chang combination before, right? And that's a hard line to break. And yeah, both swung over. So the Wu now have Hubei, the Sun have Honan. It's 1925 is the last year before things start getting weird. So I would say the Chang have no chance, basically, of getting the automatic victory. We'll see. As they have a huge amount of production, if maybe they can withhold from building that big an army, maybe they can get it. This is an easy province to take. There'll be a warlord there, but it'll only have 1 point. Beyond that, how many more? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I'm going to have to take 6 provinces. That's almost impossible. I mean, that's two provinces a turn. It means just I'd be successful on every attack and never pushed back. And I'm looking at significant production against me, unless the famines are, just horrendous. But even if they are, they've been kind of bad against the Sun, and I think the Sun have been able to survive that largely. And some big ugly events to start this one off. The famines, again hitting the Sun mainly for whatever reason. New troops showing up here, but here's the biggie: a revolt in Lianyang. That's a big territory for the Chang, and it's gone now. Cuts their country in 2, takes 10 from their income. Also, everybody got really big foreign aid. 2 of the people got 25, I think the Wu and the Chang, and the Sun, I think, got 20. Because they're now on the 3 chart, so their income's a little higher. They got rid of one of the players. The overall cash, though, because of taking 2 big territories and a 3rd big territory from the Chang, well, it means everybody kind of actually had about equal money. Well, the Sun and the Chang had about equal money. And the Wu are the wild card here, they have the most cash on hand with 32 bucks left that they can play around with. But they want to gain some things with it. And they kind of are in a horrible position here back in Hunan, completely surrounded by Sun territory, except for here in Kwaichao. But they might be able to get Sun support into Anhui. And, maybe someday be able to advance their position beyond one territory. Alternatively, maybe the Sun are willing to give them Kangxi and walk out of there during the movement. It's not terribly valuable. But anyhow, the Chang no longer have that predominance of force that they had in the last couple turns. Things feel like they've stabilized again, and that is not as pleasant. Everybody's got a lot of money left for maneuvers, though. That's one difference. We've got 17 and 16 here. In a sense, this is the turn that would end the Warlords scenario. So it kind of makes sense to have a lot of capital available to try to take things. I kind of fudge things when I make the transition from this scenario to the next. Everything else works fine. You know, there's rules for it, but this one there's not terribly, mainly because the KMT shows up down in the south, and I just am going to retreat some units. Well, we'll see what kind of alliances or agreements they might come to. You know, I don't remember if the Chang were at the top when I talked about them switching, but now they are not, and they certainly they can't do the switch anymore. The alliance is stuck in that second space. There's no way the Chang can change that. Even though the highest ranked of the unaligned forces, that's not good enough. They have to be the force, the singular power that's up at the highest, as well as not being aligned to be able to do that. Well, the Chang pushed down into Honan and Kangxi successfully. And then you can see there wasn't really anything done against them. The Wu didn't want to move. The Sun went into Kangxi and got driven back out. And they also tried to take Xuyang and failed to do any damage. They sent a very weak force in there. Why? Well, because they were paying for the extra unit here. They wanted to make sure, though, that they make the Chang pay to get Shensi. So that's 2 successes in 1 turn. Oop, I forgot I paid to attack there and I didn't do it. Let me I'll roll that out for you. So I've got 10 strength points. The miner is big. He's up to 7. We don't get a good roll. 10, that's going to be 1.5. 7 is going to be 1.4. So we actually do win. We take 1 hit and we take the province, which is going to be 2 more victory points there. Chang had the special option this last turn. They were way up here, so they swapped in there because they had a huge stack in Honan. They didn't want anybody to attack them there. The Sun went up to Xuyang, took it this time. They made another attack on Kangxi. That didn't work. Now, the Chang came back, took Shensi from that big stack. Now, with a couple of attacks, they could take the Wu out of the game, which overall would be good, except they're not far from that 16, right? Well, they needed to take 2 territories. Their second territory was a big attack on Fujian. They sent 3 armies in there. They failed, and that didn't work out too well. So now it looks like they're not going to be able to. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They're going to need 3 successful attacks. They only have $3, so they'd have to do, you know, 1 unit in each place and succeed. Now, they could do that twice here maybe, and then shift another unit in here to make sure they kept control of it. But I don't see the 3rd point being possible. So on this next turn, they want to go. Do they want to go first or last? Is the question. I think they want to go second because I don't see anything that they really need to move into, and they still have the option available, which is a shame for the Sun. The Sun would love to be able to go last here, but well. All right. So this is the end of the 16 scenario coming up, and the Wu Sun. The Sun took Kangxi. The Wu went into Anhui. The Chang came back, made an attack on Hubei with everything. They can't get the auto victory at this point, but they can, you know, try to position themselves for more money. That didn't work very well, and they ended up driven out of there. pull somebody out of here too for the extra buck. And this is the end of 25. We're going to move here and I'll set that up. But first I'm going to do kind of a mini scoring round just to show you how that works. I'll count them up and report on it. We know the Chang have won, but it'd be kind of interesting to look at how the score kind of falls out here. For whatever it's worth, here's the points that I scored out. The Chang have 114 army factors, the Sun only 84, and the Wu way down at 28. I mean, they don't have much of an army at all. Production plus money available, the Chang have 69 production, the Sun 37, the Wu have 22? Yeah, a lot of rich territory there, right? But add to that the cash on hand, and the Wu have an additional 29, which puts them in a very good shape there. And then for prestige, here's our values there. And then we just sum it up, as far as I know. I don't think it's like a best 2 out of 3 or something like that, is it? It is. Okay. So yeah, it's per order, and then if there's ties, it's ranked by victory point total. Okay, so the total doesn't actually matter. So the Chang here actually get first place in all, so they get 3 points for each of those, which gives them 9 victory points at the end of the whole thing. The Sun, second place, 41, third place, and second place, so 2, 4, 5 victory points. And the Wu, third place, second place, so only 4 victory points for them. And that's actually how victory is determined, is by basically best 2 out of those 3. Now the Chang won. Well, I mean, it's a weighted scale, so you could come in last, or you could come in second in all of them in a big number of players and still end up winning the game because you get a lot more points from that. Anyway, that's where we would be. It's no shock that the Chang won. We were pretty sure of that. But we are going to continue playing. I don't know if we're going to do this kind of victory conditions thing for the next one, which is when 37 or something. Yeah, 37's the next scenario halt. We may. What's kind of interesting about that period is that the Japanese don't come in all that strong in the 30 to 36 period. It isn't until 37 that they really start going all out in China and throwing their whole army in. This is the Manchurian era. And we're going to get 3 new powers come into play. So I'll set them up, but first this is going up.